Hi guys, and welcome to Marketing in the Madness. Now, today's episode, I've literally just finished recording it and it is a bit madness, but I think you're going to love it because I speak to my very good friend, Giles Smith, who, by the way, has had the most amazing career. He has been leading digital and technology and product strategies for brands like Selfridges, Burberry, Unilever. I mean, you name it, he has been in-house running the strategy, delivering some of the most awesome digital and shopping experiences that you can think of. So if you are interested in fashion and shopping as much as I am, and I can tell you now, I am a huge shopaholic, so I have been very, very excited throughout this podcast. You're going to love today's episode. We talk about retail technology, we talk about shopping experiences, we talk about what the future of shopping experiences are going to be like. You, I promise, are going to have a great time with us today. So I'm getting straight into the episode today, guys. Can you give us a bit of tell us about you, how you got into technology, what you've been doing the last few years, and then we're going to really dial in on Burberry because I'm such a huge Burberry fan.
Amazing. Sounds good. I mean, to stitch it together a little bit, went to Unilever, spent 5 years there, incredible, just around people that had like outrageously strong integrity, smart as well, but like everywhere you went, there was a women in tech movement in 2002 led by a group of people. We were all involved. Some of the things that have now become, thankfully, a main part of the conversation, it was happening there then. You were expected to go knock on a CIO's office as a 22-year-old grad and just ask them how their day was, and they would welcome you in. So there was a lot of training and support. And I have to remember that sometimes when I meet like younger people and I go, why are they behaving like that? Oh my God, because I had like the luxury of this outrageous group of talented people and a network of training and support. So that was good. And I did something at the time that my old man told me was mad. And I went from there to like a 60 people agency and learned what it was like to be in a scale up startup and realized we could do things so fast on such lean resources, understood engineering properly, agile properly, worked on great clients like Asda, Walmart, Diageo, so when I actually think about it directly or indirectly, I've probably worked with 50 50 retail or brands. And I've probably done, this year I'm probably with 18 or 19, either directly or indirectly consulting through a tech company. So it does give me a good exposure to like just the greatness, the madness. And we'll talk about Burberry in a bit, but that was probably, a 9 out of 10 kind of experience in that sense. So I've kind of bounced between in-house consulting, startup, big consulting, again worked at Arcadia, John Lewis, and then went back into Burberry role, which was my, and I've had like an 8-year run with there and Selfridges being in-house. I love being in-house. It has its own challenges, but it is real practitioner experience, and that was great. And now here I am kind of figuring out my own way, so which is fun too. So really good.
What I like is your attitude to startups and working with more agile kind of younger platforms. Talk me through like how that worked for you at Burberry, because I guess when you work somewhere like Burberry or Selfridges or any of these businesses, like sometimes choosing the underdog technology feels a bit risky, and therefore the businesses don't want to do that. But you obviously, as someone that is part of the Mac Alliance, clearly have a different attitude. And talk me through, because I mean that's what the podcast's all about, right? How we can use technology to get ahead in the world of marketing, business growth, whatever it might be. So I'm really interested in how that played out for you, who's someone who had quite a lot of flexibility working with lots of lots of brands, to going in-house to these huge like mega brands. How does that play out in real life?
Yeah, I think on a personal level, what I was going through, and again, all of these experiences have been fab in their own way, but when you're in big consulting, like a place like Cognizant, it was obvious to me there was just so much broken around selection processes, big IT projects. I'd come from a 60 people company that frankly were doing a lot faster than some of these big retailers. And I'm going, what can we learn from this? And then when we went into, we used to have these RFPs that took months. They're still around in certain organizations. And you're like, what are we doing? There's like 10,000 pages of questions when we haven't even asked like what the customer problem is, or if you're trying to impress and sell your software, it's like, how can I intimately really know what they need? So, even at Burberry, we started to go, let's just rip that up and do these like rapid, agile RFPs. And if they can't come back in a week and put more onus on us to ask the right questions. And if someone gets a 7 out of 10 answer, let's just have another meeting, you know. And we rattled through the selection of all of those platforms that before that was even coined. You know, we went on a journey with some good advice from some consultants and picked all these platforms that frankly no one had really heard of, right? You know, and they would admit that we're all in the off the Gartner quadrant and all that. So if you took the quadrants that come out then, we would have ended up on the same shit that's been around forever that now everyone calls legacy. So the fact that it was 2018 and we started that journey was pretty impressive. But if you get into like, why were we ready to do that? Before I got there, Burbs had like a great culture. They really valued digital, right? It wasn't seen as this like subplot to the store. They were very proud. They were the first brand to ever luxury brand to ever do e-commerce when everyone else said it was nonsense and it's not right for luxury back in 2009. You know, you had people like Angela Arendt's incredible leader followed. And then there was a whole wave of people that were like, the site, the digital proposition, we have to be on the front of it. And it was ingrained in us. And we all, therefore, didn't just want all the basics in place, like a great website and a great app. And it was like, what else can we do? We want to be the first on Instagram commerce. We want to work with the new social platforms. We want to do a social store that uses digital currency to unlock trench coats. And we were involved in all of that, building games. It was really like an expectation. And then the other key thing that turned me out, sort of removed me from being an IT guy finally, was like, I used to wear some bad TM Lewin suits now I think about it. And then, you know, like, if you didn't deeply appreciate the customer, understand the why and everything you did, it was like you're behind in the conversation. And we were very good at, you know, looking at different capabilities and opportunities and going, yeah, but a Burberry customer only shops twice in a lifetime. Why are we building this big data lake? Why don't we focus on experiential MarTech and building, you know, our brand up and doing exciting things that create brand heat around the runway shows and loads of other stuff. Really, I think they went into Roblox after my time. And so what you can do is when people cold sell at conferences, you're like, you really need to understand what Burberry is and where they should play and what the brand code is. But we were expected to do that as technologists. And I've been a better professional ever since because I've taken that kind of forward.
What do you think drove that within the business, like when it comes to the culture? Because Burberry have been really brave. They've done things, they've been brave enough to do. I mean, I bloody love Burberry, but I love the essence of the brand. And also they've had some pretty rough times. Like, do you remember? It was really chavvy at one point. Like, I mean, I'm also there for that as well. But it's had its moments in time, but it's always been brave. What is that, a top-down thing? Is that a cultural thing? Like, how have Burberry created a culture that people, you know, are not afraid to do things differently and do things bloody brilliantly?
Yeah, I mean, I do remember they did the formal stuff, right? You know, so you'd have brand strategy people who would really help communicate, like, well, what's Burberry? It's a pioneering brand, right? Its essence came from exploration. You know, the first female solo flight across the Atlantic, the, you know, polar explorers, obviously the trenches, and actually it was a very practical brand before it became luxury and fashionable. But it's got this essence of like being an explorer, it's an outdoor mindset, and I think like. So you need to figure out what are the parameters of that you can then put through different digital and technology experiences. That's one part of it. I think what's really important is that within our little world of the couple of hundred of us in digital at the time, you had phenomenal leaders like who were very values first, who gave you had a lot of integrity, very safe place, a lot of respect for each other, very confident. So it's hard to win an argument. You know, we all challenged each other. But there was we had a sensible budget with sensible trust and generally did it really well. But what I see a lot at the moment is equally talented leaders in CPO, CTO roles who I think intellectually they get it, but they're so held back at the moment by retail's confidence crisis where we don't think it's the right time to invest, or things are expensive, or we need to go through 5 rounds of budget approvals instead of 2, and it's all just got so painful on all sides. And I think I can see a lot of fatigue in some of the leaders, and that you look over the fence what good looks like. Next have just been quietly knocking it out the park for years, like year on year massive growth. I think they're doing 1 billion profit. Well, guess what, they put in a shitload of good money into a really good digital proposition years ago. and it's like no noise. So I think like we need to amplify that conversation around what are they doing. I think M&S is another example. Lego have always been very good, and I think we just need to go, okay, let's stop being so negative about the general vibes, because there are many examples of brands and retailers who are punching really well. Even in luxury, everyone talks about the doom and gloom, but look at Hermes. And so I just think we need to just now leave the narrative of like it's tough, which it is, because I think we could, like, so with these smaller companies, actually they're the ones that you can actually move the dial with without too much risk, and you can actually provide cool experiences and services without necessarily having to go to the classics that come with a lot of, frankly, more risk when it takes 3 years and costs 100 million quid.
I know. Well, it's mad, isn't it? Like you were saying, like, and I have worked in the same space where I was like quite a big agency, and we'd sometimes pitches would take a year. Like it was that long. Like we were, pitching huge digital transformation projects. I just don't think you can take that long now. No. I think if you take that long, everyone else is already there. Like you can't do these huge monolith style pitches for monolith, style tech companies, because all the other smaller businesses, the way that the world works now, will have already done all the things that you're doing, are going to be beating you to the post because you've been moving too slowly. So I do think the attitude to technology and how innovation happens is changing, because we can't be like this tick box. You haven't got time.
No, we haven't. And the reality is that the fun happens when you're doing different stuff, right? And even the things that you'd say, like let's take a funny one, right? Click and collect blows my mind. There's people are still talking about it like it shouldn't be something we all cracked years ago, but it's still dull. Like forget the technology. You go into a store and occasionally, like a Levi's or someone, you've got a cool locker or something trendy to pick up your stuff. And I'm going like, when I was a kid, I was obsessed with football, amongst other things, right? As an 11-year-old, there's only one thing I wanted every year, which was a pair of football boots every August, right? And I think, thankfully, I've grown up a little bit since then, but I go, if I could go into Niketown as my 11-year-old self, I want those boots to come from the ceiling through like a Willy Wonka-style tunnel with like my name being chanted, which they could do in AI, right? Number 9, Smith. Now, I know, maybe my ego's softened over the years, but the point is, like, I was obsessed with football, and that's every boy or girl's dream, if that's their hobby. Why are these brands that have this canvas to do something like that, where you suddenly it's the biggest day out of the year, I'm going to Niketown to pick up my boots? I just think that there's so much opportunity in some things that everyone would say are a bit of a boring topic, but I'm like, maybe we just haven't thought through them properly, so you kind of need to go through every single capability and go. I'll give you another one. I was at the Paddington Experience on Monday with my little boy, who's 5, right? And it's on the South Bank, and it's magic for his age, 5 to 7, and it's all these actors from the characters from the movie taking you through. They're all doing puzzles. The kids are doing things together, and I won't do any more spoilers. But I could see the magic in all the kids there. I'm going, why is this not in a store? Like, why in a lot of the toy stores, like Smith's Toys, the top floor at Selfridges, Hamleys, I suppose, do it. They do the theatre, but like if the grandma from Paddington was clienteling my son through a cool toy shop, he'd be in heaven.
Yeah. And
the only other experience like it was like the John Lewis do an amazing Santa's Grotto. Again, you can see the demographic of the world I'm in right now. Great. My boy was like traversing through these rooms to unlock his Christmas moment. And I'm like, why are we not doing this in the store in a light way, right? And then people say, it's too much money. How is it? You're spending like 80 million quid a year on crap tech. You just need to spend, these are like, university age trained actors. I'm sure that if you could just, that would again create great hype around, and it could be subtle. It could just be a character that's taking you through, and it's just a twist on traditional clienteling where you've got a very polished branded sales associate. I'm like, let's bring some theatre literally into the store. Doesn't even need tech.
Who should we pitch it to, Giles? Which brand is like? I'm so with you though. Like there was so much talk, and I think COVID killed some of this. But like a few years ago, there was so much talk about. I mean, I did see a thing on LinkedIn today, like omni-channel is dead or something. But shut up. But the whole kind of vision. I can't remember what I went to. It might have been Advertising Week, which is actually this week. But it was something, and it was basically saying about, you know, how shopping experiences are going to change. Yes, they're becoming more digital. We've had the Amazon economy. We know, we want things instantly. It's got to be easy. It's got to be frictionless. But also, shopping online isn't that fun. So, and there's no connection or emotion with the brand. It's a convenience thing a lot of the time. And for me now, it's, watching influencers and buying because, I've seen someone that I like wear a certain jacket or whatever it might be. Actually, what they were talking about, and this is going back like maybe 10 years, is more like bringing those experiences to, and it doesn't have to be every day, but like turning it into a runway and having a catwalk show with interactive things, so you can see people wearing the clothes and get some advice on how, like, it's never happened. And I don't know if COVID hadn't happened, whether we'd be there now, because I do think as humans, yes, we love digital. We love the convenience of digital. But for me, I would like if I was invited to go to that kind of stuff, I would be there in a freaking heartbeat. Like, I do kind of work in events, so I guess, maybe I'm preaching to my own convertedness. But for me, I want those experiences. I want to feel empathy with the brands. And that's how brands lock consumers in. You can do takeovers. You could do some kind of thing on Regent Street and do, some kind of guerrilla event. You could do pop-ups. There's so much you can do. And it's not happening, I don't think, anywhere near enough.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just like, if people talk about loyalty a lot at the moment, and there's lots of different ways you can bring a loyalty scheme or a loyalty proposition into a brand. But, what I think the simplest part of it is, like, we just love elements of surprise. We all want to feel special for a minute, right? And I was watching a great guy who did a presentation in CIO from EasyJet Holidays earlier at the show, in the tech show, and someone I rate really highly. And I was thinking they were talking about their loyalty next steps. And I was going, the best thing about airline, the only good thing about going to an airport ever was getting a surprise upgrade. And now they've all algorithmed that out, right? All of the airlines have just like crushed any of the liberty that people used to have to go, Katie, it's your lucky day, you're in business or whatever, right? It very rarely happens.
You can have that.
Do you?
Do you know how?
How?
It's sneaky though.
Oh, you've got a shrig.
Yeah. My friend's an air traffic controller and he phones a pilot for me.
Well, there you go. But for us low lives, right, I just sit there going, I would make that like a guarantee. I would almost be saying, and make a noise of it, especially in the budget airlines. I'd be like, they should on an EasyJet flight or Ryanair be like, we've just done the random quiz, and Katie, you and Giles have just got a bottle of champagne, or you've been upgraded if it's they just surprise, because everyone will be talking about it. Everyone would be going, oh my god.
Yeah, the social media that would come off that.
If they just said, we guarantee 3 people every flight to go on BA to go to.
And oh my god! And then it would do like some like gold.
Imagine
sprinkles
the butterflies going up the queue.
Like like when you go, everyone check under their seat. Yeah. One lucky person gets the golden ticket, and they get to go and upgrade. Oh my god! I'm so here for that.
And so I just think that it comes back to like how does someone? And it's not just the kids. It's like us as adults. We just love to be special and surprised, and so it doesn't have to be that complicated. And I think what I gravitate to make things like this happen is like, I want to be around the people that aren't arguing about Mac or Monolith, or aren't arguing about Agile versus Waterfall, or even like Labour versus Conservative. It's like, if the world's got so on or off, or one or the other, and I'm like, the truth is the people who are looking in the middle ground for like lots of different ideas and opinions, who are like going, actually, we can do anything, and why not? Like even with my little lad, I'm like, you can't do it yet. Everything he has to say, I said, yeah, Jesse, yes. Because it's like, we have to bring that mindset into work, because like we actually have the tech now to do mad stuff, like more than ever in my career. And I'm literally waiting, going, this is the time. But there's this sort of nervousness and a fatigue in the industry, particularly in the UK. But it will take one or two brands. They're either a complete new entrant, or like hopefully one of the existing ones that are famous, and we'll just go, right, we're going all in on this. And like Amazon did with fulfillment, hopefully that will be like, oh shit, we have to catch up now.
Yeah.
I think that's what my ask for Burberry, now I'm long gone, and be like, go be that brand, because you always were. Go be the brand that like sets a new tone for like luxury tech. That would be my.
Do you think that you can recreate the magic that you have now? I've got a Burberry jacket, but sadly, I did not buy it in store. I did buy it in store actually, but I bought it in Bicester Village. In fact, I had the lady from Bicester at one of our events this morning. I bought it in Bicester Village. So I didn't have, it's quite hectic in the Bicester store. Like now, I could have bought probably the same jacket, or maybe last season. I don't know. What happened? Tell me that first, actually. So what's the difference between my jacket at Bicester and the real jacket in the Burberry store? You're allowed to tell me.
I think nothing.
Nothing. Is it even last season? It looks
Possibly.
like it's exactly the same.
They might put stuff that was more like, they do sort of, they have the classics, classic cuts that will always be there. Same with the scarves, but they'll do patterns and colours and things that will run off in a certain run. And then if they need to exit them, they'll exit through outlet and they'll exit through staff, which is wonderful as well. So, I'm not like the expert or close to like the deepness around the buying process, but yeah, essentially there's no inferior product in that sense.
No, but it's so
what
much
I would
cheaper.
say, without being too naughty, is that when it comes to luxury brands, you get companies like Luxe Collective who really talk about this on Instagram. But you've got certain products which are built like made in the original factory with the original craftsmanship. In Burberry, the examples would be like trench coats and scarves and stuff. And equally, there's other products that are made in other parts of the world that you could argue like don't resonate with that same process, right? And that's the same with a lot of luxury brands. So when you're on the inside, you just need, which ones are like, especially with leather goods as well, they'll be made from an incredibly fine leather at a very immaculate factory in Italy, as you'd expect. But a lot of the brands, all of them will have a load of lines that are watches, for example. None of them really sell watches. They're probably made by another company and have a face on them, right?
Yeah.
And you need to be a bit savvy. But I think most of the luxury brands have their signature item, and then if you're buying that, it's that's their thing.
Mine was a Mac. Like, you've got to have a Burberry Mac.
Call it a Mac.
Oh no, do I? Have I said it wrong?
It's from
trench.
Yeah,
I have to say
that's
trench.
like
Mac trench.
Like everyone's first fail at Burberry on day one.
Is it?
Yeah,
I wouldn't get the job.
Macintosh was from another company, right? Was it Aquascutum? No.
Yeah, you're right.
Right, and it was a rival product.
Fuck. I would have lost the job before I even started.
It wasn't a breathable material. It was like, the classic cagoules. Right?
Yes.
So where Burberry's trench excelled was because it was made by Gabardine, which was not only weatherproof, but it was also breathable. So if you're in a hot country, in some war conflict like there was in the First World War, it was like genuinely like futuristic technology because it was the first warm protective jacket that was also breathable. Whereas the Mac would be like the inferior product. So yeah, if you call it a Mac, it's just like, oh my goodness. So
I do not have a
there
Mac.
You go.
I have a trench. I've just learned so much. That's it, guys. You can dial out now. There's the all the insight we needed.
No Macs.
What my original question was though, is, do you think so? Say I hadn't gone and been a cheapskate and gone to Bicester and got my jacket, and I'd gone in store.
Yeah,
I would have got served a glass of champagne. It's like that real
clienteling.
It's a proper, it's a day out. Like it feels, that would be etched in my memory forever. I can actually remember going to the Burberry store. It was just quite stressful. Like when I went to the Bicester one, it's not like a nice experience. So, is it worth it? I guess if you've got the money, I probably would spend an extra couple of, I can't remember the difference in cost. I think I paid like 700-800 quid and they're like 1,100-1,200. I'm very lucky to even be able to afford a 700-800 pound jacket, right? But, the experience, would you pay extra? I guess if you've got the money and it's something that you've really been saving for or really excited, or it's kind of celebration, like that, going in store and having that experience is a real thing. Do you think that Burberry can recreate that online, or is that in the delivery, or do you know what I mean? Like how, because it is a thing.
But just to pivot slightly, right? Because this is one of the biggest own goals I scored and learned the hard way at Burberry, for example. You have to put yourself in the mindset of the real customer, right? So what does that mean? I, in my little head, with my own means in life, assumed that if you were going to buy a luxury bag, you would want to make a day of it. In central London, out with your partner, go, champagne, the whole thing, right? Make it really special because it's a big, expensive purchase you maybe as a one-off. But once I was at Heathrow Airport and I watched a guy in 4 minutes buy a $5,000 Rolex across for me in a kiosk, like emergency. You know how we do the emergency
Rolex? Shit.
Mine's like an emergency pair of socks, right? His was an emergency Rolex.
I need that today.
But it was a great lesson. I looked at that and go, to him, that's a 10-second purchase. So if you make that frictionful, he doesn't want champagne. He doesn't want crappy payment methods, right? So it made me just remind myself that like I am not ultimately like the exact DNA of the audience here. So I need to adjust my thinking. And I think that's the same with all these things. Like, yes, of course, there's loads of people who would want that experience, but there's loads of people who would rather have their private personal shopper go pick that up and never see the store. So, and I think going to the point about clienteling is a really important capability, and it's something that it matters everywhere, in grocery, everywhere. It's a sales associate at the supermarket checkout. But in luxury, clienteling is really obviously got a very different angle. It's very premium. You get glass of champagne, intimate conversation, good advice. It's probably one of the top things they need to crack. And again, what I'm seeing now is there's some great technologies out there that I think can take this to another level. I saw a really good talk last week where they're using AI. Imagine in places like department stores, it's very hard to know the details of every brand, every cut, every, a place like N Clothing, which is a great store. There's like 400 brands in there probably. So how would a sales associate know everything about On Running and Burberry and Gucci, right? But so they've got, I saw this really AI powered, intelligent, the customer can interact with it, the sales associate can interact with it. It's like to bring an assistant. We're not replacing staff, but like bring some assistants. And a really fun non-luxury example was pets at home, right? So they're putting AI into the headsets because guess what? You might know everything in the world about hamsters, but you'll get asked a question about a fish in their store and you're like, oh, I don't know anything about fish. So they're using AI through headsets to help sales associates with the information in real time to better serve a customer who really needs really important information if you're passionate about a new pet or whatever. So there's all this is here. It's here. And I just want us to be braver to go and push this stuff. So, clienteling and loyalty are probably the two things that I think are really big in luxury. And as you get into other sectors, which I spend a lot of time in as well, you find other things index higher, right, in terms of what's important in a store.
Tell me more about clienteling, because I've not really heard that phrase.
Well, it's really the term that sort of sums up how a customer in a store interacts with the store or typically a human, right? So in a luxury store, you'll probably have several very well trained, well presented, knowledgeable people who will help support you from anything from the wardrobe through to purchase. And in that world, there's a lot of black books. People have their own network. It might be on WhatsApp, but there are also a lot of technologies and tools to support that, right? So then can I look up your sales history? Can I look up if you want to do a repair, can I sort that out for you? But where I think it needs to supercharge is like, why can't I send you to Soho House for a bespoke event in that moment? Why can't we start joining up these luxury brands with other experiences? That's got to be the best next step for this stuff. Is like, if I'm a tourist in New York and I've gone into the Gucci store and they look at me and go, okay, this guy's a very committed customer. He's been with us for years. He's valued. He's in the right tier. And then they go, well, Giles, it's great that you're in New York. We'd really like you to go to the basketball in a couple of hours. If it fits the profile of my spend or whatever, like that takes it to the next level. But at the moment, at minimum, we're sort of nailing it within our ecosystem of like, what's it like to be in our store on our scheme? But I just think that we need to think about like that customer is probably going into Gucci that lunchtime, but may also want to watch Arsenal in the evening and watch their first Premier League game. Like, how do you stitch that together? Because they'll remember Gucci if they send them to Arsenal. So it's there. And there's fundamental reasons why this stuff is harder than it looks. Because it shouldn't be difficult, but it is for a lot of legacy reasons and a lot of, I think, poor investment in technology. People who are defaulting to the same agencies that are very large with massive towers, tech companies that we've known forever. And it's actually good to look at the younger brands and look how simple they made it. We put these 4 little platforms together with a very modest team on a modest budget, and guess what? It all works.
Yeah, Gymshark. Look at some of the brands that have literally come from nothing in such a short period of time. And
I think about my whole career has been about like having that moment of self-awareness to go, what are my limitations? Where have I become a bit obsolete? Where do I now need to challenge myself? And most of the turning points I've had in my career have been a good decision around this is the right time to go, even if it's awesome, because it's really important to stay current and challenge. And I like to look to people, individuals, technologies, agencies to go like, okay, they're rewriting the rule book here. I want to be part of that. And I want to be the least smart person in that room around kind people. And if you get that mix is the best unlock, I think.
But it's an attitude. It's like not everyone is like that, and that's the problem. A lot of people, you've got a very, for someone that has, for the majority of your career, been employed, you've got a very entrepreneurial attitude, and I think that that not being risk averse and being that way inclined is what's enabled you to do the amazing things for the brands that you've been working for.
Yeah, it has. But I think the thing that's been the most common theme, right, in all examples, probably, like, I've just been surrounded by so many, like, not just shit hot people, but like really good people most of the time, right? And probably got one secret sort of skill, which is identifying those people and spending an awful lot of time with them, right? And equally, where I can, like what amazes me, right, as you get more into leadership in-house, right, your teams by default get bigger, your responsibility gets larger. And it amazes me that there's people who can't see past the fact they almost get more controlling and more self-interested. And I'm like, this is the best thing that could ever happen. Instead of having 3 teams, you've now got 6, which means in a micro way, without taking any credit, like I could perhaps in a little way influence the potential and opportunity for like all these fucking cool people. Like if it's not about that, I don't know what it's about. But I've had that on the receiving end most of my career. I've been around people who are very welcoming, very supportive, gave me hard advice, good advice, and and created scenarios where I was, able to learn and not completely fall over. And when I look at Burberry, the one thing I think is the most important outcome from that 5.5 years is I could give you 50 names now of people who were all levels at the time and now just killing it in great brands like LVMH, Nike, Dr. Martens, really senior roles, or still there, and they've just gone on and on and on, right? And I look back, and it was probably 5 leaders who just were like very good, very kind, and had a bit of autonomy. And that's actually all it took. And then you look at those individuals now, we're all still very tight. And it's like, yeah, I'm super proud that like, if I've had some minute impact on some of those people, that's really the only thing I'm going to care about in 20 years or be really measured for in my head. We all forget what this week's tech innovation was by then. Like we forgot, what we learned at school. We remember the teachers, right?
I love that, because you've actually just taken it back to my whole strategy for my business this year, which is about everything being people powered.
Yeah.
Like technology is a fantastic enabler, but at the end of the day, without awesome people and bringing people together in environments that let them flourish, that let them innovate, that let them do things differently, none of it fucking works, basically.
Well, and to think about your brilliant background, right, and where your specialism is, because it's not my area in like marketing and branding, but people bought each other to death talking about Mac and technology. What's interesting about it is that before, and these brands I've worked with, the marketing people, the creatives who were supposed to be spending their time amplifying cool new product, like thinking of different ways to describe and storytell the brand, are like dying in IT tickets and cumbersome technology and slow roadmaps, right? When you move to a really slick, simple technology estate, everyone's unleashed, right? Suddenly it's not the tech people's problem anymore. It's like, right, Katie, come up with 1,000 more images or 1,000 more ideas. It shifts the problem back on the business, if you like. And it's really empowering, because that group of people who are the creative minds typically in the room have all these barriers removed, and then it's just about like, well, what can you do with this beautiful brand? But I see tons of organizations, and I'm helping some of them at the moment get out of this space and trying to get them into a place where they've not got all of these IT problems that are ultimately stopping them from what they're supposed to be doing, which is like amazing, inspirational content and experience online.
I'm here for that.
Here for that.
I honestly really am. Like, I'm also a huge shopaholic. So this is like, I could actually talk about this all day. I actually went into Harrods yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay, this is just slightly off topic, but why not? 2 most frustrating things for me to purchase. Like one of them, can you guess what either of them are? 2, the hardest thing in which they have in all of these big stores, Harrods, Selfridges, wherever. But 2 of the hardest things to buy. Like that, usually on the ground floor of a
what, perfume?
Yep, number 1, yes. Because oh my god, like I'm smelling everything. I'm getting so confused. I need to like walk out of the store. So I didn't actually buy any perfume yesterday. That wasn't that.
Yeah.
But the amount of time, like that is a really hard purchase. And there are some interesting technologies about to be launched by some people that I can't talk about yet. But watch this space. I will be able to talk about it soon, hopefully. But that is like a really frustrating purchase, which definitely the buying journey needs to be improved. And I do think that digital can really help us with that kind of stuff in terms of, AI can, like, what kind of scents do you like? Go to the counter, like, yes, but you can tell people and fine, but like you could shortcut that and you could make it a bit more fun and exciting. Watch this space. I do know that potentially might be coming. The other one, I don't have an answer for this one, but it's just what I was buying yesterday. Sunglasses. Like, I don't know how or why. I think I tried on 100 pairs of sunglasses yesterday, and then it's like it's really confusing. It's like a confusing purchase.
Too much choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want it, and you want assistance, or?
Well, I don't know, but I just feel like there needs to be a solution for it. So I'm asking Giles, the king of shopping experiences online, like how do you improve those kind of experiences? Because it is those, for me, I don't know if everyone else listening is thinking the same, but those are two shopping experiences. I love buying anything, but that I almost get stressed out doing it because I'm like, I don't know which choice to make, and it's too much choice, and it's like now I'm going to buy nothing because it's just like not. So I do feel like the stores could help us.
I mean, this thing is like, so, I mean, beauty's doing okay online with this stuff, right? They're getting, the beauty category is getting quite good at like helping people with, different online experiences to see themselves.
I'm obsessed with that.
With the right tones and the right, etc. But I feel like, again, it's like, what's the version of that in store?
But also, like, I mean, they do have that in store.
Yeah.
I have actually spoken about that on the podcast before, because Sephora have a skin diagnoser tool.
Okay, cool.
Which will tell you what beauty products to use for your wrinkly skin, as well as...
Do you know what? No one told me in store not to buy this jumper as well.
Damn.
It's a bad clienteling moment.
I love this jumper, and human made. I like the message.
Yeah.
But I think that those kind of things are coming.
Yeah.
But they're also, this is an interesting, maybe like where we can focus on for the next 5 minutes. But is technology can do so much now, right? But it's still not good enough. Like, why can't I? Because technology can do this. Take a photo of myself, put it on the website, app, whatever it is that I'm using to buy my beauty products, and it go, right, based on your colouring, because you've got it in the photo, you should buy this colour eyeshadow, this lipstick, that, like, blah, 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 done, here's your package. None of them are doing that yet. There's still so much that you have to put in all this stuff, fill it all in like a fucking questionnaire. No, I just take a photo, tell me what I need. It's not that technology can do that.
Yeah, you think that the wardrobing experience should just be now like kick-ass, right? I should be able to go in there and go, for whatever reason, I've come for this, right? Make the rest of it work.
Yeah,
there must, and I've actually had very little experience, and in terms of like, I've not been to China, for example, but you always hear from that region that this stuff seems to be much more prevalent, and much more, and not just China, but like that Southeast Asia, there seems to be much more confidence and innovation, and for whatever reason. But so it feels like it will come, and I think that's the thing, we haven't on a scaled way seen the art of the possible when it's clearly there.
But why isn't it like we actually chatted about this last night, and I have got an answer, because after I discussed it with you, I discussed it with someone else who gave me a different perspective. But to me, 15 years ago, I was working for quite a progressive digital agency. We had an innovation lab, and we were talking about things like connected fridges. Like, your fridge will know when you've nearly run out of milk, and it will just order it for you straight away. Like, that's not happening yet. It can do it. We've got the technology. Like, back 15 years ago, we were talking about, oh my God, it's going to come. This is going to be amazing. And I'm like, why are we still not doing that? And then yesterday someone was like, well, yeah, because you don't need to solve the problem like that anymore, because you just tell Alexa and there's a different solution to that problem. The short-term problem was we then had to go to store, but there wasn't like 1 day, 1 hour delivery. Now you can go to Deliveroo or Uber Eats or Tesco Whoosh, and it will be at your house within half an hour.
Yeah.
So you don't need the technology. So I think that's the other thing, is in my head sometimes I'm like, why is it not doing that? Well, yeah, because the customer problem can be solved in a better way.
Yeah, exactly. And do you know what? I saw something at Web Summit back in the autumn that I really liked. And it's one of the rare moments where it does feel cool to have a solution, but not quite figured out the problem yet. Most of the time they say it's supposed to build technology the other way. But these guys have created, they're called Wavy. They've created a device that looks a bit like an AirPod case, quite discreet, quite small. And it basically does everything that video recognition can do, but through radio.
You were telling me about this.
Yeah, right. So I'm sitting there going, hold on a minute. And I don't have the smarts to even worry how it works. But it's taking in different pulse, stress, all these other things, and creating an algorithm that tells you what your intention is, right? And they're playing with things like point of sale, pricing, and figuring out if someone's going to leave a store because the product's not there, which is a great place to play. But I want to get in a room with like 11, 12 really cool innovators in the retail space go, what would you do with this? What would you do with it at Burberry? What would you do with it at Asda? What would you do with it at Mercedes?
So it's basically in store. Explain it to me.
Physical piece of technology that would be in a store, or like you could come off an airline and they could just go, you're unhappy.
But you're wearing it all the time. You have to put it on.
No, you're not wearing it. It's a physical piece of tech that's on the shelf or at the point of sale.
Okay, so you don't have to wear it.
Past it. No.
Oh, and it just knows. It can pick up your...
Yeah, it's picking up all of your different temperature, pulse, other different behavioural, moments.
In distance.
Yeah. Putting it into an algorithm and making some inference that you may be happy, sad, high intention. And then you link that to a clienteling moment where, there's some sort of point of action where someone goes, oh, sorry, Giles, you look a bit frustrated. I'm like, yeah, my favourite Lucozade is out, or I can't find the perfume that I wanted to come into Harrods for. When you actually start to think about it, you get quite excited because the case studies are quite endless. So I think it's a great technology that needs to now find a home. And I just want to start to create some environments which are a little bit of an anti-pattern to some of these conferences at the moment where we're all talking about the same shit. I'm like, let's get some companies like that with some really cool leaders who are desperate to have conversations around innovation. And let's flip the problem back to like reverse mentoring or reverse problem solving, where actually the brands and retailers step up and they go, all right, guys, what would you do with this?
Innovation incubators.
Yeah,
I like it.
So I think you've got examples like that are pretty cool, like New York Fashion Tech Lab, which is a great organization that's female founders only. They get a lot of new tech into that system. People like myself and my old job would the company would pay for us to go and be the Dragon's Den and support them, and I piloted some stuff in Burberry and Selfridges. There's stuff over in the US, but I think we need something like that here right now.
Yeah. Or we make it.
We just do it ourselves.
Yeah. I'm sorry for that. Can I tell you my other cool idea? Sorry, guys. I feel like today's podcast is like going left, right, and centre. But I'm fucking loving it. So I really hope you're enjoying listening. So this is... I don't know if you were listening in on this conversation yesterday. So we were talking about mood rings. You were talking about that.
Oh yeah, or the Aurora rings.
Yes, no, not Aura rings. The like old school mood rings.
Well, like literally when in the 90s.
Like, and they were just probably like heat. Well, they, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Like, and like the jump t-shirts and stuff. Like what mood?
You used to have the heat changing t-shirts.
Yeah. Are you feeling sexy? Are you feeling cross? Are you feeling? Yeah, love all of that. Like that. It was fun.
Yeah.
Now this is my idea, but it is a little bit Black Mirror. So we've kind of got that now with Whoop and with Aura actual rings. So imagine it's a bit freaky.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'm not the first person to think of it, and I'm now announcing it on a podcast, so I'm definitely not going to be the last person to think of it either. But is if it changed colour to like represent how you're feeling, because
imagine if it goes like, oh my god, Giles is boring the hell out of me.
Yeah, but you'd be able to see. Yeah, but isn't that interesting?
Feedback is a gift, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. But maybe the use case isn't right. But it's what I'm not like a techie person, but I love what technology. I mean, I kind of am a bit of a geek. I never realised I was until probably the last 10 years when I've got more and more involved in technology. But like, I was like, that could be. I mean, it could also be very, very dangerous. Like if you're on a date, maybe not great. She fucking hates you. Get the hell. But it's quite cool that we're at a stage where technology is enabling like some pretty cool and potentially freaky stuff, but maybe you could give the people a necklace in store. Well, I don't know.
I'm like a walking contradiction because, frankly, I sit in this mindset of like, one, I'm up for it. Let's do all the new stuff. And reality is we've got very little control over privacy, and that thing it's all coming. On the other hand, I just want to like plant carrots in the garden with my son and pretend it's 1991. And so, at home, I have a very different like mindset, but I was talking to, and again, it was because I was with a group of people working on a startup last spring, and they're all like 25-ish. We were having a conversation. We were in quite a nice bar environment, right? And we were all pretty shattered. I'd been up since 5 with kids and stuff. And I was like, facial recognition right now, people are saying they don't want it, but it's sort of there anyway, because this is like the most security cameras in the world place on earth, London, right? If a camera in a cool bar had signaled that you were tired and jaded, and they're like, okay, let's just like talk about element of surprise again, like we were talking about earlier. Bring you an espresso martini, free on the house, right? And they're like, look, Katie, and you're just like, I think for me, I'm like, that's very personalized clienteling. And, am I over the fact that people have been watching me in the bar? Well, they are anyway. Every bar typically has security. So you sort of go, where's the barrier? Or just state it, and people don't want to come, don't come. But I would love a bar or a restaurant that could, surprise us with the fact that, and I'm not, maybe voice is too much, right? If you say, I wish I had oysters today, and they bring you a tray of oysters, but like to someone else that might be heavy, right?
I mean, I still don't fully understand how Instagram is always listening.
Yeah, well, it totally is.
It's like, I have asked someone on the podcast about that actually before, and I was like, and they're like, I can't remember. They're a person that should know, and I was like, they gave me quite an interesting answer. I can't actually remember what it is now.
We used to do things like at home. It would be like
test it out,
like canoe water polo in Wales, and really niche shit that comes up like 3 days later. You're like, done it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah,
but then I think they said you might be searching for similar things, or you might have put something in somewhere and it's not actually listening. But I don't.
No, definitely listening.
I think guess. I'm so with you on that. Oh, I wish someone could tell us the truth on that. Giles, right. My last question to end the podcast on, when it comes to the future of retail, I'm not even going to say about technology, where are we headed?
Well, that's
such a big question.
You know what? Like being humble about it, right? I don't talk about myself as like what I'd call like a futurologist or someone who has great predictions on the exact specifics, right? But I do. When I think about who do I follow and who do I admire, just to step back a second, right? When you're in a role like a head of technology or digital, like it's a brilliant role and you have incredible breadth. There's pretty much no capability in technology in a retailer. I haven't had a genuine experience of selecting, building, embedding. But we're quite broad. We're quite generalist, actually. Once you're at that level, you've got 15, 20 teams, maybe 200, 300 people, maybe 25 million budget. To be a specialist in AI along that journey, I think is probably like a load of bullshit. Like a lot of people I see in house telling me that they're futurologists suddenly overnight in AI. I'm going, I think you should be at this stage, getting proper AI first startup-y or big companies involved at this point, because this stuff's special. So when I think about those big grand predictions, the person I love to follow, that I'll default to his brilliance, to not claim money for myself, like a guy called Dr. Robert Walcott. Saw him at Web Summit. Selfridges hosted him for a brilliant 2-day offsite with leaders once. I was mind blown, and there was loads of good people that day. And he talks about, he's got a book called Proximity, and it's all about like not necessarily nailing the prediction of the future, but the contours are that these are the events that are going to happen. And he was feeding us ideas like, if you can 3D print penicillin now in a battlefield instead of spending millions of pounds in an emergency on a fighter jet, dropping it into a war zone, and now they just print it there in a war zone, what's the retail version of that? Like if you can do everything and get it anywhere, anything you want in the near future, like if you could print your whole outfit in your bedroom, why would you go to Selfridges or Harrods or Gucci, right? And there are good reasons why, but he does this lovely job of opening up your thought process, but with real examples of stuff that's already here. So when I think about what that means, it's like, if we can start to manufacture, grow, and actually produce stuff like within our 100 meters of our house now, that's going to completely disrupt the entire globe in terms of infrastructure, supply chain, sustainability. So I sort of default to the experts on these sort of answers, but I think what he gives countless examples of things. He talks about, what if you could have a cake that smells like a cake, tastes like a cake, but has no calories and isn't a cake? And you're just going, hold on a minute, what is this?
Yeah.
And it will only make sense when you read it from him or watch one of his YouTubes, because you're just like, wow, this is here. You and I could be having our favorite worst meal and not having any of the downsides, perhaps, So that could be the future. But I think right now we're in this 2 to 3 year period of like, just a bit lost, a bit disorientated.
I think we're going to come out of it soon.
Yeah.
I love the futurologist thing though. Again, that just like, it blows my mind. But I love my mind being blown. So thank you for adding to that. Giles, thank you so much. Can I give you a high five? I honestly, guys, I hope you have enjoyed listening to me and Giles as much as I have chatting. I knew this was going to be awesome. So a huge thank you for you coming on.
Thank you.
Huge thank you. And I think we're going to do some more interesting stuff like this coming up. So yeah, keep an eye out, guys, because you never know. Me and Giles might be doing some events. We might be doing some more podcasts, but watch this space.
Amazing. Thanks, mate.